Today we're going to show you how to measure staple set block brush, also known as staple set stave brush. So these brushes obviously don't have a round core or a spiral or anything like that, but the measurements you need to take are just as important. So let's start with our backing. We've got the backing width, we can measure here, 82.76. We've got the backing thickness, which we'll measure. 16mm, and then we're going to check the length. $290mm, 292mm. So based on that, we've got the integral part, the base. Now let's work up. So we're going to work off the, we're going to get the tuft hole sizes. So the tuft or the punch hole where the bristles are inserted, we need to know the diameter of that. So I'm going to measure it here for you. So outside to outside, 6.57mm. This is critical. The tuft hole sizes do increase in 1/2 mil increments, so please be as accurate as possible. From there, we're going to figure out the pitch. So we'll actually forget the pitch. Firstly, we're going to confirm the configuration. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Don't know if you can see, but I can see through those rows, which says to me that, yep, you should be able to see through it. There's no staggered row. If there was a staggered row, it would be where my fingertip is. So the terminology used to describe this is 5 straight rows. Now we need to get the pitch. So the pitch across, I'm going to do that with the vernier, actually with the tape measure. So I'm going to measure the pitch across for you guys, from the center of one hole to the center of the next hole. Close as you can, 16.92. I'm going to verify that by going to the outside of one hole. Let's go with this hole, the outside to the outside of that. Yep, 16.92. So it's a 16 to 17 mil pitch across. Now we need to go along the brush. So let's check the pitch. 20, as close as you can. So I went 21mm. I'm going to verify that from outside of hole to outside of hole. Again, 21. So we've got 5 rows straight rows with the 16mm pitch across by 20mm pitch along. So along is always the longest measurement. So now we need to figure out how high this bristle is. That wasn't a good attempt. So we're going overall height. So from tip to top, it is measuring 75mm. I'm going to confirm the trim length, 60mm. So, and that supports our earlier measurements of the base height plus the bristle height. One thing that we will compare this to right now, while the video is on, is a similar brush, slightly different specs. The major difference between these two brushes is the way that the bristles not are inserted, but the configuration of them. So make it quite clear that these are straight rows, you can't see through. This brush here looks a lot more dense. It's got a lot more density to it, and the main reason why is that it's not only straight rows, it's staggered rows both ways. So I don't know if you can see here where the brush has been cut, but they were tuft holes. So you got 1, 2, 3, and in between those 3, on the second line back, 1, 2. So that there, we refer to that as a 5-row staggered. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in your staggered row. So there's obviously to look side on and to look front on. There's a lot of difference. The staggered row obviously gives you your density and your block out, whereas your straight row, for whatever reason, the design of your brush is, they've both got their benefits. Straight row is probably going to give you, it's going to give you coverage of bristles, but it's going to be a lot more airy, or a lot more lighter to say. Whereas the density of the staggered row, that's got its pros and cons, also depending on what your application is. So please take note and be very mindful, and refer to the custom design sheet for your bristle configuration types to get that right, because I feel that's a critical piece of information, and we don't want to get that wrong. The final thing with both of these brushes, whichever one it may be, we need to measure the bristle. So whether it's staggered or it's straight rows, doesn't matter. If you don't have the right bristle, chances are the brush isn't going to do what you want it to do. So I'm measuring here in metric, 0.47 millimeters. I'm going to grab that same bristle and just turn it 90 degrees so that I can measure the other measurement, 0.45. So the reason why I do that is the fact that all these fibres, when they're extruded, they're not perfectly round. Some are, some aren't, depending on what machine they're to run through, who the manufacturer is. There's a number of reasons, but the reality is that's life. So don't take just one measurement, take two sides and then flip the brush around and take a measurement from the opposite side. And that should support the measurements that you've taken. So 0.45 by, and again, don't squash the brush too much, the bristle I should say, you'll take it for its true measurement, so 0.4. So I'm confident that both of those are the same, and it's a slightly oval shape. And these are examples of how you measure staple set block or punch stave brush.